Welcome to the design of concrete structure class. So in the last classes we have discussed about the loads, what are the different loads acting on a structure, and then we have discussed the different material properties. So in concrete structure we normally use two types of material. One is concrete, another is steel. And then in the last classes we have discussed in details about what are the properties important for us for the construction purpose and all. So in this lecture we'll be discussing about the design philosophies, philosophy of design. So what is philosophy? So philosophy, if you see, it actually varies. Like when you don't have any predetermined, when you don't have any perfect thing, predetermined thing, then someone will have some other philosophy. Means everyone will tell what is the true in their perspective. For example, if there is no definite truth, okay, then everyone will tell this is truth. For him, that is truth. So in every individual will have different truths. Similar to the safety. If I tell you that your structure should be safe, now the main concern is the structure will be how much safe. For me, maybe if structure is not collapsing in normal condition, then structure is safe. But for some person, his safety definition will be structure will never collapse. Whatever may be earthquake comes, then flood or whatever may be the natural calamity, structure should not collapse. Maybe it is his safety definition. So every individual will have his own her safety definitions. So now, so safety is a philosophical in nature. Like everyone has their own safety and everyone is safe also. I mean everyone has their rights also to define their own safety. So that's why philosophy comes into picture. So I will have some definition of safety. That is my safety. Okay, so that is my philosophy. Maybe some person will have their philosophy. Means for their definition, safety will be structure should stand up to 2000 years, 3000 years. It is their philosophy. So I am also not right. He is also not, or both may be right. So that's why here in this lecture we'll be discussing about the philosophies of design. So in design also we will have multiple philosophies. So we'll see how the philosophy has developed from past to present modern days. So these are the design basic steps. So if you employ any design philosophy, so these are the steps actually you have to follow. What are these steps? Okay, sorry. Yeah. So what are these steps? First one is to assess the dead load and other external loads and the forces likely to be applied on a structure. So whatever structure, whatever philosophy you may follow, but the loads will be coming on a structure. So first step will be to assess the loads. How much external loads are we discussed in the loads lecture in details. Like what are the dead loads, live loads, snow loads, earthquake loads, or different types of loads we have discussed in details. So you can see, and so that is our first step. That anyway we have to follow all the. I mean we have to assess all the loads. Now number two is to determine the design loads from the different combination of loads. So same in the load videos we have discussed about this part, that is load combination part. Like all the loads will be not acting together simultaneously. So in that case we have to use some load combination, and then which combination will give you a higher value, that will design, that will consider as our design load, and I will start designing. So that is our second step. Now what is third step? Third step is structural analysis. So first two steps you identified how much load is coming on a structure. Now in the third step, basically we are doing the structural analysis. Means we are finding out the bending moment, shear force, axial thrust, all these things we are computing. Now, what is the fourth step? So, fourth step is to determine the cross-sectional area of the concrete. That is our fourth step is our actual design. Means we are finding out what should be the cross-section of a beam, cross-section of a column, how many reinforcement required in the middle, what would be the spacing in between. So, all these parameters basically we are discussing in lecture and step 4. So, irrespective of whatever methodology you follow, these 4 steps will be same. You have to follow. Okay, all the 4 steps irrespective of the methodology. Now let's get started with what are the different method philosophies are available for design of structure. So these are the 4 methods widely available for the design. So first one is working stress method, load factor method, strength and just excuse me, and serviceability method, and limit state method. So these are the four methods philosophies is available for design. So currently we use limit state of method extensively for our design. So this is the latest philosophy has been developed, and this is the currently all the major structures in India or in abroad also, in world also, we follow limit state method. Earlier, so at the beginning, maybe at the 19th century, 100 years back, this working stress method developed, and then gradually one philosophies came and we developed one philosophies, and currently we follow limit state of method design philosophy. Now let's give you, now let's put our understand the basic understanding of working stress method. So working stress method, as I mentioned, it is developed in 19th century. So it is more than 100 years ago this working stress method developed. That's why all the structures which are 70, 80 years old, these are developed using the working stress method. So in the working stress method, basically you will have one term called modular ratio, so which is nothing but the ratio between modulus of elasticity of steel versus modulus of elasticity of concrete. So this modular ratio will be extensively used in the working stress method. So in the working stress method, we consider though the structure dimension will be very high. If you see, that's why the olden structures, which are 100 years old, that structures you will find the columns dimension, beam dimensions are very wide, because that time we considered the material property of if you saw in the last lecture we have discussed the material properties of steel and concrete. So let me draw it here also. What we have understood is, yeah, so the material properties of stress and stress strain curve of steel, if you see, so this is the stress axis, strain axis. So this is our stress axis sigma, and strain axis may be epsilon. So if you see the stress strain curve of a concrete, how it looks like. So concrete will be something like that. So stress strain curve of concrete will be something like that. Okay. Similarly, stress strain curve of steel, if you see, means if you perform the tensile strength of steel, so excess will be saying epsilon strain and stress, and the curve will be something like that. So you will have first tilting point, second tilting point, again load will increase, and then the breakage will happen. So this is about steel. Okay. So now in concrete, if you see, there will be a straight line portion, and then the non-linearity will start. The material will go to inelastic deformation shape. Similarly, here also in steel also, they will have initial portion will be elastic, and then gradually it will go to a non-linear portion. So, but in the working stress method, we are ignoring this part, this non-linearity part. So in the working stress method, we'll consider that our concrete has strength up to this portion, up to the linear part. We ignore just this entire part. Although my concrete will take some other stress, more stress compared to this one, but it will go to inelastic region, right? So we ignore this part in the working stress method. We consider our concrete will give up to this much strength. So we'll consider this much is the stress of a concrete, strength of a concrete, and we design our structure. Similarly, steel also we consider it as a linear behavior up to this, and whatever value we get it here, that we consider it as our strength. But in reality, if you see, after yielding also, concrete will go to inelastic behavior, and it can take more load. But we simply ignore this part. Similarly, here also we ignore this part. So that's why we underestimate the behavior or the properties of concrete. So because of that, the structural dimensions are huge. That's why if you see beams and columns in old structures will be very wide. Very wide beam columns will be there. If you go to Howrah Bridge and all, that is more than 100 years it has constructed. So these structures are actually made up using the working stress principle, and it's considered up to this is the linear properties of proper of material, and that's why the dimension of structure will be huge. Although structure is safe, it won't collapse, but it is overestimation. So this is not much economical. If you see, our structure will be very wide, and we'll have very less space inside the structure. So that's what the disadvantage using working stress method. But again, nowadays also in many structures we use working stress method. Some important structures where we need more safety, then we follow the working stress method. So next is some assumptions. So these are the assumptions of the working stress method. So both steel and concrete act together. This is the one, and the perfectly elastic in all stage of loading. That's what I mentioned in the last slide. That material is perfectly elastic, right? So we'll consider material up to this. Where the straight line is linear, up to this we'll consider. So we just ignore these portions. So that is our assumption in the limits in the working stress method. Now, what is the factor of safety? If you recall, we have discussed in the earlier classes also. So, factor of safety is a we consider because in our design steps you saw we use loads. Load also is not constant, it is uncertain, right? We used characteristic strength, characteristic load, if you recall in the last classes. So so much uncertainties are there in structure, material properties are uncertain, loads are uncertain. So all these behaviors are, all these parameters are actually uncertain. That's why we have to use some factor of safety to become in a safer side. Always we use, that's why we use some safety factor. Safety factor is what we just multiply with this value. For example, a structure load is coming maybe 10 Newton, for example. Okay, 10 Newton load is coming on a beam. But while designing, we'll consider not 10. We'll be in the safer side, we'll multiply 10 with 5. So it will 50 Newton. So we analyze structure by considering that load will be 50. But in reality, load may be 10. But we multiply this with 5. Maybe this is an example. This is, we call it factor of safety. We just added, multiplied with some constant to to be in the safer side. That's why we call it factor of safety. So, so that is for the load. So for load, basically we are increasing the value, whereas in a material we are decreasing the value. For example, concrete, you are using M20 grade of concrete. Okay, so you are using M20 grade of concrete. So let me just draw it here. So you are using M20 grade of concrete. That means the characteristic strength, that is FCK we call it, right? FCK is 20 MPa. That is the meaning, right? So now while designing, we won't consider the strength is 20 concrete. We will divide it with some factor of factor, let's say 2. We divide it with 2, then we'll have 10 MPa, right? So while designing, we'll consider the strength of the concrete is 10 MPa, not 20 MPa. But in reality, it may be 20 MPa. But while our designing purpose to become more safer side, we won't consider it as a 20. We'll consider it as a 10. And then we design. So always in the load, basically in case of loads, we increase. Increase means we simply multiply. Whereas in the materials, basically we decrease. Means we divide it. This we multiply and this we divide. So materials, so factor of safety in case of concrete is about 3 with respect to cube. Means whatever you get, for example 20 MPa you got characteristic strength, cube strength. So your factor of safety you have to use is 3 as per the working stress method. So you have to divide it by 3, so which will be nothing at 6 point something. So although the strength is 20, but we are considering the strength of the concrete is only 6.3, for example, 6.5 maybe. Okay. Similarly for steel also the factor of safety is 1.8 they have used. Means if the steel, if you are using Fe456, Fe415, then it will be divided by 1.8. How much you get? That will be 250 or something you will get it. So that strength of steel we are considering in the working stress method. So that's why we are underestimating the strength. Now what are the major defects? What are the problem with this working stress method? First is it deals with only with the elastic behavior of the member. So we are not considering an inelastic strength, right? So that is really a disadvantage. We are not using the inelastic part of a stress strain curve. So that is the one defect. Another is it results in larger compression steel. Okay, so we'll see what is compression steel in the subsequent lectures. But it because of it uses partial safety vectors are very high. That's why we need large compression steels. So that's what about the working stress method. Now let's discuss about the load factor method, or we call it ultimate load method. So it is introduced in 1956. If you see, last method was discussed. Working stress method was developed in 1900 century, whereas this is after 50 years this method is developed. So the strength of RC section at working load is estimated from the ultimate strength of the section. So if you see in the working stress method, we considered what? we consider that up to linear portion where the linear curve will go. So let me draw it quickly. So this is your stress strain behavior of concrete. So it will be linear portion, and then like that something will detect here, breakage will happen. So this is strain and this is stress curve. So working in the working stress method, we are considering up to the linear portion. So up to this portion we are considering. So this whatever value we get it, this that will consider in the working stress method. But in the ultimate load method, again, we'll use how much is the ultimate strength. So here up to this portion we'll consider. So because of this method, basically we are using the ultimate more strength of a material. So because of that, our structure will won't be now thick. It will be thin structure because we have increased the material properties. We are using the ultimate load. The load factor here we are using is a ratio between ultimate load to the section can carry to the working load it has to carry. So in the working stress method we use modular ratio, but here we are using the load factor. So this is the thing. Now the next question is reason why we shift from working stress method to the ultimate strength design. Because reinforced concrete section behaves inelastically at higher loads. Right? In the working stress method, we are just ignoring the inelastic behavior. Whereas in this method, in reality also, the concrete is actually using concrete has the highest strength in elastic region. So we should use inelastic part also. So that's why this is the one reason. Next is ultimate strength design allows more rational selection of the load factor. And then the stress strain curve is non-linear and it is time dependent. So all these parameters are used in the ultimate strength design or load factor design. So in the working stress method, what you saw is we use only linear portion of the material. That's why our material, so our beam column dimensions are very high. Whereas in the ultimate strength method, basically what we used is ultimate strength method. We use the ultimate strength of a material. It may be concrete or it may be steel, and then we design. So our material, also our beam column won't be that much thick. It will be rational. So these are the two extremes. Now our third philosophy, design for the strength and the serviceability. So what is design of strength and serviceability? Now in the ultimate load case, so last philosophy, the second philosophy, what we saw is now we are going beyond or up to the ultimate strength, right? Where the inelastic behavior comes. We went up to that portion. So when we go up to that portion, what will happen? We are going into inelastic region of a material. So you will find there will be cracks in a building. Although our structure will be safe because the ultimate load has not reached, but once the inelastic behavior starts, then you will find so much cracks on a structure. Again, this is also not desirable. As you are sitting on a structure, if you find that there is a crack in a building, you will feel panic, right? Although your structure may be safe, it won't collapse immediately, but you will feel panic that oh my god, the crack width is more, or the slab deflection is too high. So these are the things also we have to consider. Not only our structure should be safe, but it should be serviceable also. So this is this philosophy, that is for our third philosophy, design for strength and serviceability. Both we have to consider. We not only have to consider the strength, ultimate strength we considered in the last philosophy. So we have to consider both strength as well as the serviceability part. So if a section are designed by the ultimate strength requirement alone, the crack and the depth deflection at the service load may be excessive. So it is necessary to keep crack width and deflection within the reasonable limiting value. So that is designed for the strength and serviceability is required. So this comes our current method, that is the limit state method. So currently we use limit state method extensively in all the engineering structures in India, in India and abroad also. Major structures are done currently in the limit state method. So let me just recall whatever we studied till now. So first method we have discussed is working stress method. So in the working stress method, what you saw? Working stress method, you saw that we use the linear part of a stressed material property. So because of that, we use larger safety factors also. That's why our structure is over safe. Structure dimension beam column is very huge in nature, and structure is very safe. Okay. But the problem is the economic part. If your beam column thickness is increasing, ultimately your structure will be more expensive to construct. So in India or in abroad, so we are just overestimating the entire part. So we are just overestimating the entire part. So because of that, our structure won't be economical. So just to overcome that, we and again in the second method we have used ultimate load method. Means we are using the extreme part of a stress strain curve. So again in that case, structure will be structure will be subjected to cracks and all. Means once we such the cracking, so we have to look into the serviceability part also. Now limit state will combine both. It will check stability also as well as serviceability also. So that's how the limit state method is presented, and nowadays in all India IS codes whatever we follow, it is also follows the limit state method. So a limit state method, it corresponds to the each of the state at which structure becomes unit. Serviceability limit of a failure with respect to the reflection and cracking. So basically, if you see limit state will have two types. One is of collapse, means strength and stability we'll see. Another is serviceability. Both will check, and we limit it. Means our crack should be there. So in a structure, we can make a structure where there won't be any crack. But again, those type of structures may not be economical, right? Because in working stress method, you saw our structures are very wide in nature, and those may not be economical, right? So those type of things. So we make a structure which there will have small micro cracks, but again, crack width should not be more. We allow our structures to crack, but the crack width won't be more. That is our serviceability part. Okay, so we limit our crack width, deflection of a slab. We limit all these parameters. So this is the serviceability part. And so basically in whatever structural design we will do, we'll check for our structures to the based on the most critical limit state, and then we have to check for the serviceability also. So first one we check for the strength, and then we have to check for the cracks and deflection serviceability part. So just to remember that in limits basically we are limiting everything. Crack will be there in structure, deflection also will be there, but it will be under the limit. So in the limit state, basically, that's why the name also comes limit, because everything we are keeping on a limit. Okay, so in this course, basically, extensively we'll use this limit state method for our design of concrete structures. So, so this completes our philosophy part. So as I mentioned, so this next class onwards we'll be starting the beam design. So we also use extensively the limit state method, and our Indian standard also extensively discussed about the limit state. Thank you.